Well, we can be sure of one thing. Jake Tapper's running himself a PSYOP. It's not necessarily just that he wants to run a PSYOP against the nation. It's not necessarily just that he wants to provide an escape hatch for the Mockingbird media. It's not necessarily just that he wants to make money with Alex Thompson as co-host of or co-author of Original Sin. But we can be sure of one thing. This isn't about Jake making some big soul change. It's not about him cleaning up his act. It's not about CNN getting better. It's not about the Mockingbird media becoming more fair. It's about something else. And there's a lot to the PSYOP. One of the things that he's doing is he now wants to pivot the conversation to, we're not getting the truth about Donald Trump's health. The same President Trump who actually goes out and wins real golf tournaments. I doubted that too until I met with a golfer named Fred Funk. He is a golf legend. In fact, I have an interview coming up with Fred, and I asked him about President Trump's golf play, and he said he's legitimately a very, very good golfer, legitimately capable of winning tournaments in the tournaments he plays. That President Trump? So they're making all sorts of turns in this, and it's not about this just making it sure that we understand, oh, the media, we just got fooled. No one believes that. There's a full-fledged PSYOP on the way. Jake Tapper is really starting with the absolution to Biden propagandists. And it's not about going forward and sinning no more. No, it's not. Here's Tapper.
In your specific case, Joe, our reporting indicates that Joe Biden, who, as you know, is a frequent viewer of the show, saw when David Ignatius wrote that column in, I think, August 2023, saying that Joe Biden should not run for re-election because of what he had been hearing.
Right.
And he came on this show, and you guys had a robust conversation about this. You largely agreed that you'd been hearing things about this, but that there was really no alternative, that Kamala Harris was not up to the job. That's what Democrats were telling you behind the scenes. Joe Biden saw that. Joe Biden said to staffers that he wanted to convince you that you were wrong. And he focused on you like you were a constituency, like you were farmers in Iowa, like you were the Kiwanis Club in New Hampshire. And he made sure that you thought differently. He made sure that you thought differently. I think he did this with a couple people. I think he did it with Meacham. He might have done it with Evan Osnos. He knew that there were people that had to be convinced that he was fine. And he tried to prove that to you.
So what is he doing? He's taking now a competitor, Morning Schmo, who says Mark Levin calls him Max Levin's. I love sometimes you're a conservative radio listener for all these years and the word that Levin probably has trademark pops out of your hole. Morning Schmo. He's trying to convince Scarborough that he was especially targeted. So what's he saying to Scarborough? Hey, in your case, you have an excuse, like I have an excuse. They spent all sorts of special effort to convince me that they were fine. So he's priding in this part absolution. But it gets worse than this. If this is not a PSYOP, then Jake Tapper's book will contain some very, very easy to come by details. For instance, and Stephen, this is being pointed out by a guy who's so good on Twitter. He's a great writer, but he's actually should just be a professional Twitterer or Xer. Stephen Miller, do you know this guy, Stephen L. Miller? He's a Versus Media podcast and Substack, contributing editor of The Spectator. He has been on NRO, Fox News, New York Post. He likes to throw out an F word every now and then, kind of one of his things. But he's very, very good at targeting something and not letting go. Do you remember that there was an LA Times so-called reporter, and her picture was in the figurehead's hands, and this was prior to an event. Her name was there, Courtney Surabamian. And she was there invited to ask a question that was in writing in the figurehead's hands. It was a play. It was staged. There's something so fascinating about this. And Jake Tapper hasn't talked about this. And Stephen L. Miller has a question. Why won't you address this instance of Biden having these questions in advance if it wasn't a cover-up? See, that's not mentioned in Jake's book. That photograph, that instance where we saw questions submitted in advance is not in a book about the original sin of the media allowing itself to be so-called fooled by the Biden regime, when in fact they weren't fooled at all. They were cooperating.
The cover-up. Define cover-up.
I think that the way that we define cover-up is the Biden that was on that debate stage. It was not the first time that Joe Biden appeared. And over the course of the 9 months preceding it, you had an increasingly hectic efforts to try to hide the extent of the decline from the American people, from reporters, from members of the Democratic Party, from members of their own cabinet.
Literal hiding in a kind of way.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
he's not going to go do this, he's not going to go do that.
Right,
Yes.
and we're not going to let him meet with these cabinet officials, and we're not going to let him meet with these White House staffers, or we're not going to, or when he does an event with donors, when he does a fundraiser, just 40 people, we're going to put a teleprompter in the back of the room so he can speak. Even though that's something that any politician should be able to do without a teleprompter. The cover-up is defined as hiding something bad. That's what's happened. We're not alleging criminality. You're allowed to lie to the American people. That's not a crime. Politicians have been doing that since this country was founded.
Yeah. And you're doing it, Jake, and you're doing it, Alex, because we all saw the picture that's been merchandised for years. We knew about the rules. They stated the rules. When you're going to a Biden press conference, we're going to ask you to submit your questions in advance. We knew that. You participated in that. You're speaking of these press conferences. You say it wasn't a cover-up. When Biden was on his soundstage, which was a fake Oval Office with a blue screen behind him, that's supposedly the lawn of the White House, no reporter in that room exited and said, I had the most bizarre experience today. Instead of going to the Oval Office, they took us downstairs to a soundstage, a fake Oval Office, and there was a 25-foot teleprompter behind us. No one said that. That's participating. It is a cover-up. So why is it a PSYOP? It's a PSYOP because they're starting to pivot now away from Biden's health. After all, he's not figurehead anymore. And they're picking a new target. And look, Jake Tapper is well aware of the power of the media to change things and to change elections, to rig elections. He knows how powerful the media can be, and so do you, which is why I want to make you available of an opportunity to change entertainment media. This is an incredible thing that Angel Studios has done. I recently watched one of the recent films that had been in theaters. It's not yet available online, but I got a screener's copy, and it's called King of Kings. It's a very, very cool story of Jesus as told through a character meant to be Charles Dickens. And in this case, Dickens is telling the story of the Lord Jesus to his own son. And this is based on an actual Dickens work called The Life of Our Lord. So in this, the dad is a storyteller. He's on stage. He's Charles Dickens. And then the stage play is interrupted by his really kind of honestly annoying little boy with a super annoying cat. I got worried at this point in the movie. Like, I don't want this annoying kid and this cat, but the change that Jesus does to this kid and in a way to this cat, which is a great storytelling device for kids, is phenomenal. It's very godly. It also reveals some of the truths of Jesus in a way that the entire family can enjoy. It's quality acting by some big names like Forrest Whitaker and Pierce Brosnan and Ben Kingsley, but they're not distracting. It's not like I'm watching a Ben Kingsley flick. They do such a good job of blending into the characters. Now, here's the deal about this movie. This is one of many Angel Studios has done. And here's the thing they're doing to culture, which is so important. They cracked the door open to Hollywood. You can go be part of this. You can change culture with them. Here's how. Visit angel.com/Todd. Join 1 million of us and take control back of the entertainment media by becoming a premium Angel Studios Guild member. You get to watch The King of Kings like I did, watch it with your families, but you also get to stream all fan-curated shows and movies and get 2 free tickets to every Angel Studio theatrical release. But stop and listen. We also get thumbs up or thumbs down on the stories that they tell and distribute. Effectively, you're becoming someone who greenlights Hollywood flicks. Let's make them the right ones. It's angel.com/Todd. That's angel.com/Todd. So they're making the pivot. This is Jake Tapper making the pivot to talk about the health of someone else. It's no longer the figurehead. This is why this is having all the smells of a PSYOP.
Writing this important book, Investigating the Biden Presidency, Jake, informed you about how to cover the current president.
Well, I just think in general, not Trump specific, but in general, I think that the press corps, and I'm certainly including myself, needs to worry less about politeness when it comes to these health issues, and needs to be even more aggressive when it comes to demanding transparency on health issues when it comes to the president. President Trump, while he appears healthy, he has not been transparent about his health records. And I think that that's something that the American people have a right to.
You want to add something?
Yeah, I think, listen, this is not the first time this has happened. Woodrow Wilson, FDR, JFK all hid significant medical failings. Joe Biden was not totally transparent. It is going to happen again, inevitably, unless there is something forcing such disclosures.
Oh.
Alex Thompson, Jake Tapper, the book, an important book indeed, a bestseller already. We actually bought it.
Thank you. I know. I
Forcing
appreciate it. Pam is trying to get a free one.
Wow, it's a bestseller. It's on every single network because every single network wants to have this absolution. Now, we could pretend that we were fooled, but you see now the careful turn. Because, of course, CNN has never been aggressive enough looking into President Trump's health, right? If only there was something that we could do to prove that maybe they did take a look at President Trump's health, but that may be super hard. I might have to go to, say, something like X.com or Twitter, and I might have to put in a search phrase, CNN Trump health. I mean, that could take up to 6, maybe even 7 seconds to go and get something like this.
Cholesterol, that's something that a lot of people pay attention to, 223, a little bit high there. They wanted to bring some of these numbers down and obviously check some of these things again. But a lot of focus, I think, specifically on his heart. He had an echocardiogram last year to look at the function of his heart. And, there was a lot of discussion about the impact of his lifestyle overall on his health. In fact, listen to a couple of the exchanges from last year.
Can you explain to me how a guy who eats McDonald's and fried chicken and all those Diet Cokes and who never exercises is in as good a shape as you say?
Man, he's being polite. He is being so polite. Isn't what we just heard Jake Tapper say? They were way too polite. Right? He never exercises. Incidentally, I'm not one who thinks golf is vigorous exercise, but it's a ton of walking. And it's a ton of being out there standing upright, which is core stability. I'm not here to say it's vigorous exercise, but they're not being impolite. Eats all this McDonald's. What did Joe Biden eat? Ice cream?
It's called genetics. I don't know. It's some people have just great genes. I told the president that if he had a healthier diet over the last 20 years, he might live to be 200 years old. I don't know.
And he does have heart disease. Is that what you said?
Oh wait, hey, look, it's a guy from CNN. That's Dr. Gupta. He doesn't have. Oh wait. Are they being polite?
He does not have heart disease. No.
He had a CT scan before that showed calcium in his coronary blood vessel.
He does. He did. He had I think so. Technically, he has non-clinical atherosclerotic coronary atherosclerosis.
Some of this may be semantics, Anderson. I mean, you've heard these terms before: coronary atherosclerosis, coronary artery disease, heart disease. People use these terms interchangeably, and I think what the test has shown that he does have a mild form, common form of heart disease.
So when Joe Biden was tripping up the stairs on a consistent basis, when Joe Biden thought his son Beau had been the Attorney General of the United States, when Joe Biden thought that he had spent a career driving semi-trucks, at no time did Gupta or Anderson Cooper, these people come on and really want to dig into this. Remember the demands that he have a cognitive test? That was laughed at. Of course, the famous instance of Jake Tapper effectively kicking one of the Trump girls off of his show for suggesting that Biden had declined. This isn't a book. I mean, it's a book. It's a moneymaker. It's probably going to be a movie. It's not just absolution for the media. It's a psyop because you see them now beginning to build the edifice that Trump should be forced to release some things. I'm all for it, just not with this timing. Here's one other example of CNN not really telling the truth. Carl Bernstein, of Woodward and Bernstein, he also had things to say about Trump's health.
We're in the midst of a presidential cover-up of Donald Trump's mental and physical condition. And his doctors are part of the cover-up under his orders. That much we know. That much is fact. But it is essential that Republicans especially, and I've talked to some Republicans on the Hill, and indeed there are Republicans in the Senate who are furious, concerned, worried about the president's mental health, physical health, and they too want some disclosure of what the real facts are here. But it's time for them to step up and demand it, because we've never had a presidential crisis of leadership such as this.
That's Carl Bernstein, a legendary reporter from way back in the Watergate days. We have, what, over 2,600 pardons signed via AutoPen. And every day we continue to learn the identity of someone else who had access to the AutoPen. This time it's Lizzie Warren. According to a whistleblower, Lizzie Warren had access to that. So-called Dr. Jill Biden had access to that. Do you think Hunter Biden didn't? The pivot's on purpose because it's not the physical health of Trump they want. They want excuses to attack his mental health.